Time to fuel your business success. Welcome to Harmonious at Lunch. We're bringing you bite-sized advice and expert conversations to drive clarity and growth 5 days a week. Make sure you join our Facebook group at humanopt.com/lunch, where listeners like you and our guests hang out so we can find harmony in business together. If you're building a business, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
What if instead of using ChatGPT and trying to find the right prompt, you could just re-engineer your brain and we can start using all models more effectively? That's a fun question. I am buckled up right along with you today. This is going to be a fascinating episode. I have a very cool guest with me, and we're going to talk about just that, not thinking about the tools we're using, but how we, as the craftsmen, use the tools better. So, Russell Van Brocklin, welcome to the show, and thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me on.
I'm excited for this conversation. We were talking a little before we started recording. I was incredibly confused, but then we started talking about this whole idea of re-engineering our brains, the way we think and the way we produce our work, and you have me captivated already. So why don't we fill in the audience? What is it exactly that you do in the context of what we're talking about today?
So what I want you to understand is, as employers, ChatGPT and like large language models has just revolutionized everything. And a problem that I've kept seeing is every time I turn around, there's a new model. Now we have to reprompt engineer to learn how to do this more effectively. And I just went back to my original research program for dyslexic students, and I found a way to apply that to re-engineer everybody's brains. So let me just give you a quick recap. My original program was funded by the New York State Senate. Basically, we took a bunch of highly motivated dyslexic high school juniors and seniors, college bound, excellent family support, very smart, very motivated, and we increased their writing skills from the middle school level to the average range of entering graduate students using the GRE writing assessment test. It's the same writing assessment test as the GMAT for business school. And they jumped 7 to 8 grade levels in one class period a day for a school year, costing the state less than $900 per student. Reading, writing, everything solved. They went on to college, all graduated, no accommodations, 2.5 to 3.6 GPA. My competition could do something similar at the time with a 25% success rate, 2 to 3 years full time at a cost of 100 to 150,000. So we were 3x as effective for less than 1% of the cost. And after presenting that, I was told by senior professors they wanted something different. There's a book out there called The Craft of Research, University of Chicago Press. It was developed, it came out in 1995, and it was designed to teach PhD students how to write advanced research papers. And in the 5th edition, it's now down to advanced high school students. But if you're running a consulting practice or any problem-solving business, which is all of us, it tells you how to do that much more effectively. So it starts off in 3 concepts: context, problem, solution. The idea is you put everybody on the same page with context. Then from that, you create a definitive problem that you want to solve. And then at the end of everything, a solution where the reader learns something substantive. And it actually says in the book, if you cannot learn something substantive, then don't write the paper. So one example I like to give is when I teach this to high school kids or middle school kids. Imagine you're doing Romeo and Juliet, and you ask, how many times has the teacher who's been doing it for 20, 30 years actually learned something new from a student, something they never thought of before? And the answer is almost none, or occasionally a few, and then they remember that paper in detail 20 years later. So what we do is we follow that process, and then every time a student turns in a paper, so if there's 20 students, you get 20 papers where the teacher learns something substantive with each one. Okay, so how can we transfer that knowledge over to not just dyslexics, but everyone? Because dyslexics only make up about 5 to 10% of the population. Well, the answer is really simple. The difference is, just in case if you have any dyslexic employees, a few things that you should notice. Number one, if you really want to get the most out of them, focus on their speciality, their area of extreme interest and ability, what they're really good at, you will get multiple times the productivity out of them. Number two, you teach them and you have them work from the specific to the general, not a general question to the specific, but starting off at a specific point and then move forward. Lastly, you start off with something called word analysis followed by articulation. It's from Yale's book Overcoming Dyslexia, and that part of the front part of our brain is about 2.5 times, 3 times overactive. So what I'm about to show you was designed for dyslexics, but gen ed students pick it up and use it. They pick it up much faster. They tend not to go as deep. All right. So when you're starting off with let's just start off with what the context is.
Real quick, Russell, before we dive into context, I just want to point out that I'm intrigued to dive in here, but one of the things that I see all the time, whether it's in business or in life, is that we have a vague idea of what the problem is, and we immediately go to solution, especially people who are relatively positive and optimistic. It's like, okay, let's find the solution. But entrepreneurs are guilty of this all the time. We don't spend the time to gather the context and really define the problem. So I think just from that perspective, is slowing down here and following this model is going to pay dividends really, really quickly. So please, let's dive into the context, and where do you start with this?
Well, pretty much, I am a ChatGPT Pro member. I spend the $200 a month. So let me give you an example of how I'm using it. New York State is completely rewriting its K-5 educational program. They can't afford the solution that they came up with after spending 1.5 years on it. So I'm working with a member from the New York State Task Force on this, Evelyn Whitebay, and we're creating a proposal for a single school district. So what I did, how do we first find out what the context is? I went to ChatGPT and I said, who is the top consulting firm in this market? Surprisingly, it's McKinsey. So then I did something called a deep research report, and I said, okay, what is their proposal for how to create this? All right. And it came back and said, oh, there's some other ones from Bain and other consulting firms. Should I add that? Yes. So I ran that. It created about a 25,000 word report. Then to the school district we're pitching, I said, okay, this is what we're looking for. Give me another deep research report. And then using the new O3 Pro model, which is much better than than just the normal O3 model. It takes forever, but it's worth it. I would then go ahead and say, how do we draft the executive summary first? The end point. I do it first because then I know where we want to end. Then going down each section, I would run a deep research report just on that section as a model. And then I would ask it to the O3 Pro to model it out, and then I would have it review itself, model it out, review itself. And after a couple of hours, I would have a draft, and it would say, yeah, I'm shooting for about 90%. And then I would send it off to Evelyn, who's just one of the most amazing people on this and on the task force that understood this for decades as a teacher of dyslexic students, and she's marketing it up. So the purpose on the context side is you're looking for a really good draft, and the constantly going back and forth for each section of the proposal, having deep research run, not just one big, because I tried that, it just didn't work out, but for each section running that and then comparing it, it gives you a really good draft. So you can go to a senior person and say, here's the draft, go fix it. And then I constantly run the prompt that I use for O3 Pro is I'll say, tell me what you like about this, what you dislike about it, and any recommended changes. Make the changes exhaustive. So it does that. And what Evelyn will come back and say, I agree with about half of this. I disagree with about half of this. So where the technology is now is going through that process. You can have a junior person create a very good draft and send it to a senior person who then still needs to rip it apart, and then you're re-editing it, polishing it. But instead of a team of 5 or 10 MBAs doing this, there's 2 of us.
Yeah, you're cutting down your labor costs and also your time too. But the other thing is, I haven't heard a whole lot of people who are using deep research from that minute of a level of detail. That's really interesting to me that you're analyzing each section with its own deep research project and then continuing to just refine it from there before sending it to someone else. I just know a lot of people, for example here, who run one deep research project with like a 3 or 4 sentence prompt on an entire pitch deck. And that you're just opening yourself up to so many potential errors and pitfalls and things you've overlooked. This in and of itself is really cool to see how you're using the tool at such a fine level.
Oh, it's not even that, but when we get down to specific paragraphs, I'll run a deep research report just on how to refine that paragraph.
Wow, that's
Okay.
cool.
And then I'm constantly using O3 Pro to make suggestions to make some small changes. But what I'm finding is people say, well, that takes forever. Every time you say hi to O3 Pro, it takes 5 minutes. And so what I do as a pro subscriber is I'll run one thing online and I'll run another one on the app. So I'm doing two at a time.
Okay, yeah, that's
Okay.
smart.
And that saves a lot of time. And then people say, so I got to spend $200 a month. I said, yeah, if you actually want to use this, that's how you do it. I get 125 real um, deep research reports, another 125 based on the O4 mini model, which aren't quite as good. But again, I'm talking about trying to write something to a McKinsey standard that is written by a team of people. And there's two of us, and this is much faster. So it's good enough. So when I send it to Evelyn, who again was on the state task force, she comes back with some, I don't know, 10, 20% of the wording, and we refine it from there some more. Because just so you know what this is, we're going to have a meeting with the senior people of the school district. They're going to ask a lot of hard questions to me and Evelyn, and then it goes to the superintendent for a yes or no vote. Okay. And this meeting was set up by a New York State senator, a Republican one, because Republicans want something in the school district and then come back to them. Democrats want to start with a bill. All
Mm.
right. One's bottom up, one's top down. But creating that proposal, I mean, it is still taking us a couple of weeks to do, but it's on a part-time basis. And when people say, what about other things that I'm doing? It's like, I can't just sit around waiting for ChatGPT to do this. I have one window focusing on that. And then for another window, like let's say, for example, for pitching on Podmatch, where we met, I have an AI running that one. I have O3. I have a program running to see which one I'm going to pitch to, and then I go ahead and I use O3 Pro to actually create the draft pitch. So I'm doing two things at that time, and then I have another window open for just revising and working on other documents while I'm waiting for the AI to do its thing.
Yeah, this is
Okay.
super
And
cool.
this is just the beginning of the context, getting everybody on the same page. And that's just an example. And when people say you're running a deep research just on a paragraph, yes, when you're according to the initial report, this whole proposal is only supposed to be about 6,000 words. And it's got to go from the superintendent down to the technical experts. So you're darn right. I'm running a deep research report just on each paragraph and using another O3 Pro to rewrite it because the work is substantially better than just the O3 and drastically better than O1 Pro.
Yeah. No, this is really good. I went back and looked at your pitch to be a guest on this show, and it's great. It's really great. It's obviously what you're doing is working.
Well, I
But
had
let's hop.
I had to edit that quite a bit, but yeah,
No, yeah, it reads natural, like it's from a human being. So I think this is the direction I hope more people go as these tools come out. I think our first reaction was, oh no, AI is going to steal our jobs and it's going to eliminate people. Not really, because you have a whole lot of dumb people who don't know how to use it, and they put their dumb inputs in and get worse inputs out. And I'm sorry if I've offended you there, but
no, not at
like
all.
what Russell's saying is, Russell, you are using it because you are a skilled craftsman. You know what you're looking for, and then you know how to get that result. It just speeds up your result. You're not replacing people necessarily, because I'm not a fan of McKinsey either. I don't think they do revolutionary work. I think what you're doing is far better because you're an expert in the area. I want to see more of this coming out. So I'm glad this is what we're talking about today.
Well, just be very clear. What I'm doing is I'm sending Evelyn, the senior dyslexia specialist for school districts. I'm sending her a good draft. That's
Hmm.
all the AI
Yeah.
is it gets you to a good draft, and a senior person rips it apart. You rewrite it based on their expertise. But instead of having just a lot, doing it the old way of just taking forever, I'm getting her a decent draft, within hours of each section. All right. And that's what it takes to put together a really good proposal. And to be honest with you, she's looking at some of the stuff McKinsley's saying, and she says, "I disagree. I want to do it this way." So then I rewrite everything, come up with a new model, and then we run it through that. Okay, and it does generate. She takes about half the suggestions and kicks out the other half. So for people out there, what you need is the pro subscription plan, somebody creating the good draft, but it's only a draft. If you don't run it through a senior person who really knows it, you're going to look the fool.
Hmm.
Okay, but that's where it is now, but it can save you so much time just getting to that first draft.
Absolutely. I love this so much. So we have to wrap up here. We're coming to about the end of our time. We're gonna have you back to cover the problem and the solution piece of this equation, because I think it's important that we really understand the whole picture here. What would
Mhm.
you say though, before as we wrap up this episode, because the next one probably won't air for a few weeks at this point? If someone's using this tool, whether it's for research, whether it's for to craft a pitch deck, to analyze a new market they need to go into, whatever it may be, what do we have to keep in mind about the tool itself, whatever AI they're using, and how we're applying it?
You want to start off with baby steps. I like to get a big picture overall with a deep research report and then go small step by step by step, much more than you think. And really, it's currently the best one to use is the O3 Pro model. And just realize you're going to have it running in the background. Every time you ask it something, it's going to be 15 minutes. A deep research report's a half an hour. Have another window open so you can work on something else, and another window open while that's doing its thing, and you'll become amazingly productive, and it just makes your life so much easier to get all the grunt work done by the computer.
Amazing. I love this. Russell, is there a good place to send the audience to if they want to learn more, if they want to connect with you, all that
If
stuff?
you want to connect with me, just go and visit me at dyslexiaclasses.com. I do primarily work with dyslexic kids to help them overcome the reading and writing issues, but we've also developed process to help people come out down with their PhD, how to apply what we're doing to actual business problems. And unlike most dyslexia researchers, I actually finished the entrepreneurship portion of the MBA program at Rensselaer Polytech Institute. I have studied partially at the University of Chicago, and I do have a business background where I did go through a startup. So I know what problems you're facing, and there are ways of quickly solving them.
I love it. Russell, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks a lot.
Wherever you're watching and listening, all those links are down below in the show notes or description. So go check that stuff out. Did we answer the question? Do you have a little bit of a clue of how to re-engineer your brain to get a better output for the problems you're trying to solve? We're going to have more. Don't worry. This is going to be a multiple part episode, but at least for now, you have the starting point of how to answer that question. We'll see you on tomorrow's episode of Harmonious.
Another episode of Harmonious at Lunch in the books. I hope this episode made you think and you grabbed some actionable ideas to propel your business. Don't forget to like, comment your takeaways, and subscribe wherever you're listening so we can help more entrepreneurs just like you achieve harmony in their life and business. For cutting-edge tools that bring clarity to your people and processes, check out humanoff.com to download our app today. See you next time.